The Coonhound Collective podcast is brought to you by CZ Welding and Custom Dog Boxes. Dog boxes built by hunters for hunters. Check these guys out today. This is your host, Jason Snellgrove, and I will be your guide as we journey down the road to pleasure hunt or hitting the long trail to those great comp hunts. This is the Coonhound Collective podcast. All right, guys, today on the Coonhound Collective podcast, we're going to be talking to a guy that I've seen some posts that he put on Facebook with some amazing stories, stories that what our sport is truly about. Brett Stevens actually screenshotted a picture of it, sent it to me, and said, man, you need to check this out, and went over there and read 2 or 3 stories that he's had on there, how he got into coon hunting, how he helped a young boy get into hunting and coon hunting, and it's just amazing story. So stand by, we're going to get him on the phone. All right, welcome to the Coonhound Collective podcast today. Today I'm joined by Mr. Charles Pudill. Charles, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. How about you, sir?
Oh, I can't complain. Why don't you just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of your background and where you're from.
Okay, I grew up in southern Michigan, born in 68, graduated high school in 87, had a real strong desire as a kid to hunt, fish, own dogs, do about anything outdoors. Just didn't really have an opportunity to do much of that. Had a grandfather I fished with a little bit. My mom and her husband probably did more fishing with them than anybody. And then me and one of my brothers, both of them, spent a fair amount of time running around the woods with BB guns and pellet rifles and all that. By the time I was about 14, I played football, wrestled, did sports, but pretty solid that I wanted to join the Army, not just join. I wanted to serve somewhere within the special ops community. So straight out of high school, came down to Fort Benning in 87, did basic training, infantry training, airborne school, and then went to the Ranger Indoctrination program. Hated this place personally. The Fort Benning area wasn't too fond of it. Bunch of big skinny pine trees and bugs. The off post was horrible back then. Nothing but establishments for drinking and all that. And I grew up with a strong fundamental Christian background, and I was not a drinker, so didn't fit in real good there. But I got into the 3rd Ranger Battalion, like that aspect. And once I got in there, with not having a whole lot to do, started fishing. Had a roommate that was from North Georgia that had done some tournament bass fishing, and we bought a little John boat, or he bought a John boat. We started fishing in that about every chance we could get. 89, I completed the Army Ranger School. I got back, I had a Kansas boy in my squad named Shannon McKinney, and he said, Chuck, get a deer rifle. We're going to start deer hunting. So I started deer hunting the post and absolutely loved deer hunting. About any sort of hunting I enjoyed. And our deer hunting season got cut short because of Operation Just Cause, the invasion of Panama. We jumped in and fought there. During Panama, my roommate, David Reeves, got shot 3 times and ended up getting out of the Army. He survived it. But he called me up and said, hey, come get this John boat. It's yours. So he gave me the John boat he had, and ended up meeting my wife not much after that. We spent most of our time fishing on the Chattahoochee River, continued deer hunting. And then her dad was a avid deer hunter, but hunted with hounds. And when I got, the Army gave me a scholarship to stop being enlisted, to get out and go through college ROTC so I could come back in as an officer. And those 3 college years, I hunted and fished a lot. But being my father-in-law was in a deer club, I ended up getting up a little pack of walkers and running walkers, and that was my first real experience of having hunting dogs.
Okay, well, before we go any further, let me first off say thank you for serving our country and for serving us, keeping us protected. We really appreciate that and hold that high honor here with the Coonhound Collective and me and my family.
Well, thank you, sir.
So you got that pack of dogs to deer hunt with there. How did that develop into moving over into coonhounds at some point?
Well, you read the story I wrote on the Facebook there, so I'll just tell it kind of quick. I was working construction, and I don't remember exactly why I was walking, but I lived in a very poor part of Phoenix City. On one side of me, I had the projects. On the other side was the little shotgun houses, folks that had worked in the mills. Poor on both sides. But I was walking through Riverview Apartments, which is the projects. There was a group of boys over in a grass area throwing a football around, and one of them looked over, about a 10-year-old boy, and said, "Hey, ain't you the hound dog man?" Which kind of surprised me because nobody called me hound dog man. Everybody down in that area called me fish man. I caught so many crappie and catfish back then that I would pull up into the projects and give them away, the ones that I wasn't keeping. So when people saw my truck, they'd say, "Hey, fish man." But I kind of laughed and said, "Well, I don't know if I'm the hound dog man, but I got a few hounds." And he said, "Can I see them?" I said, "Sure." So him and a group of boys followed me down to the house. I lived in a little quadruplex, but I had a fairly big backyard. I just had some 55-gallon drums with my dogs tied to stakes. And he was just very interested in dogs. And we threw a football around a bit and talked. And he ended up leaving. And then a couple of days later, he came back down with a few more of those boys. And he started making kind of a regular pattern, but his name was Irvin. He would keep coming down. And then little by little, it'd just be him. I had a litter of puppies that a fox dog and a running walker, a treeing walker had mixed puppies, and they started just ended up missing, which I didn't care because I was trying to get rid of them anyway. But kids were stealing them, and Irvin would go out and liberate them and bring them back to me. We pulled into the drive one day. I looked out back and I saw him. He saw me. He took off running through like a little patch of woods. I was like, "Oh, what the heck's Irvin doing? It ain't like he would do anything wrong to leave." What he was doing, he would sneak over, get a 5-gallon bucket and a shovel and scoop up the dog mess for me. He'd been doing that for a while. I was kind of wondering why there was no mess to clean up for my dogs. But as summer went on, or time went on, we started, I met his mom, and he was just an outstanding young man, very well behaved, just courteous. He would never ask you for anything. You could even, offer, if we stopped by a store or something. He just generally always wanted to earn his own way. But we started fishing. And once we started fishing, I started teaching him some marksmanship with a pellet rifle. And then I switched him over to a 22. And he just, anything that had to do with fishing, hunting, guns, 4-wheel drive trucks, he ate it up. And so I ended up like, you know what, I'm going to let him deer hunt with me. And I told my father-in-law as deer season was getting close, said, "Hey," and he'd met Irvin, and Irvin would go down to his house and, help him with chores in the yard and garden and all that. And they liked Irvin, but I said, "He's going to hunt with us." And my father-in-law, he was a Korean War vet, a bit older, and he said, "Well, you can't do that." And I said, well, why not? He said, "Well, you grew up in Michigan. This is Alabama. Things are a little different down here. And, black people got their own clubs where they hunt rabbit beagles, and we've got our own clubs. And, some of us bird hunt, some of us deer hunt." He said, "But we, at the end of the season, we might hunt each other's land." And he said, "We might even drink a little whiskey, but we don't join each other's clubs." I said, "Well, it'll be fine. He'll hunt with me." But we ended up opening day. I'll never forget it. We went down to the hunting club, Watermelon Creek Hunting Camp down in Pittsview, Alabama. And Irvin was wandering around and looking at all the 4-wheel drive trucks and examining the hounds. And I kind of thought about it because a few men kind of looked at him a little odd. And I said, "I better have a talk with him. So if somebody says something out of the way, he doesn't get his feelings hurt." So I pulled him off to the side. I said, "Let's have a quick talk, Irvin." And he said, "What about?" I said, "Well, look around down here." He looked around. I said, you see anything different about you and everybody else?" He said, "No." I said, "Look real close." He said, "Ah." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Everybody's got a 12 gauge, and I'm the only one down here with a 20 gauge. And I about laughed. And I said, "Yep, that's it. If anybody gives you any grief about it, you come tell me, and let me take care of it." He said, "Okay." We didn't hunt but a couple weeks down there. It got where we could pull into the camp. He'd jump off my truck, jump in the back of somebody else's. I may not see him till mid-afternoon. They treated him as well as any kid in the program or any other man down there, and he earned the respect, and they gave it to him. But that's kind of how me and Irvin got hooked up. But towards the end of the year, I don't know, just that deer hunting with dogs got a little bit aggravating because you lose your dogs. some of the people that aren't dog men don't really care about catching your hounds. You spend tankfuls of gas looking for them, after the hunt when they get out. Then Irvin came to me. He said, "Hey, Charlie." I said, "Yeah." He said, "I've been thinking." He said, "We should coon hunt." I don't know where the heck he got coon hunting from. And I said, "Why should we coon hunt?" He said, "Well, then we can hunt year round, and we don't have to just hunt during deer season." And so I started thinking on it, and I knew absolutely nothing of coon hunting, but I looked in the newspaper and in the want ads found a $200 blue tick. And I don't think I bought the dog. I traded the man. He was a nice fella, a man that had been a real deal coon hunter in his day, injured during Vietnam, and he kind of had a bad back injury, become more of a dog jockey. But I got that blue tick, and we knew nothing. We didn't have a tracking system. We didn't have a squaller. We didn't have coon hunting lights. We didn't have waders. It's just me and Irvin out there in the middle of Fort Benning turning a dog loose and then taking off and following it. And how we didn't get snake bit or anything else eaten by gators, I don't know. But we followed that dog all over creation. It ran armadillos and fox and possums and I don't know what else. But it treed a few times. We never found nothing. We went and got a few more of those dogs and tried them out, and it was all about the same. And it took us a month or so, and we kind of gave up on the coon hunt and decided we didn't know what we were doing with coon hounds.
Yeah, well, that is, and I really wanted to have you on to share that story among many others that I'm sure you have, and some others that I've read. But that story to me is the embodiment of coon hunting. Nothing, the color of their skin doesn't matter. It's just about being out there in the outdoors, enjoying it with people of all different races and backgrounds and cultures. And when I read that story, my buddy Brett Stevens screenshot it to me. He said, "You got to go. You've got to go read this." And so I went over and read it, and I was like, "Man, this is it. This is coon hunting. This is what it's about. This is hunting in general, not just coon hunting. This is hunting in general. Bringing people together from all walks of life." And it was just an impactful story to me and to him and to, I'm sure, many others that have read that. Hey guys, this is Jason over at the Coonhound Collective podcast. Is your dog box starting to get wore? Maybe it's starting to get a little cracked like mine is. Maybe you've just been thinking about it's time to upgrade to a new box, but you've asked your buddies and you're just not real sure what direction to go in. Well, let me help you out here. Go check my friends out at CZ Welding and Fabrication, custom dog boxes and aluminum products on Facebook. You can check out all their custom work they do there and their designs that they do. If you don't see something that you don't exactly like there, reach out to Nathan at 540-810-5439, 540-810-5439, or send him a message through the Facebook page. I bet he can fix you up. Don't wait till fall to get that new dog box. Go ahead, get that dog box now. Get you something looking good in the back of your truck that you can be proud of and that you can haul your dog around in comfort. Check my friends out at CZ Welding and Fabrication. You won't go wrong. Dog boxes built by hunters for hunters. Get yours today. CZ Welding and Fabrication.
It was interesting too because I don't know when I was in my pretty early 20s then, mid 20s, and when we started really coon hunting, and I learned about coonhound bloodlines, and this is I can tell how I met Bobby Phillips in a minute, but I would find a dog, maybe Mississippi, North Georgia or North Alabama, and want to try it out. When I would talk, people would think I was older. I guess they'd assume I was 40 years old or something. So I'd drive somewhere, and you get out of the truck, and, I was young, so they weren't expecting a young guy. And then you got a 10, 11-year-old African-American kid with you, and they would just kind of have a strange look. I wouldn't say nothing. I never went anywhere with Irvin, didn't hunt, that afterwards, whether they talked to you on the phone, they'd say, "Where in the world did you meet that kid?" I was like, "He lived down the road from me." Like, wow, you got a gold mine right there, because that kid hunts like a grown man. Like he can be waist deep in mud. It can be 2 a.m. He'll tote the coon. He'll handle dogs. it wasn't like hunting with a kid. It was literally like hunting with an adult. He was just mature for his age and had a lot of grit to him.
Yeah, and that's again that's just what our sport's about. It's you find you a hunting partner like that, somebody that you can depend on, somebody that will go out there and spend the time with you, and they you don't just give them anything, they earn it. They go out there and earn
Yep,
it, and that's part of it.
that's true.
Well, won't you go ahead, because I think we're right on the cusp of you talking about how you met Bobby Phillips, and kind of tell us that story. I read that on Facebook, and again, is another phenomenal story.
So I got out of that. I got commissioned as an officer. Done my 5 years enlisted, went to college, ROTC for 3 years, ended up, got commissioned. Had been out in the field training. I was in the infantry officer basic course. Hadn't hardly slept in a week. But it was, I believe, open week in a deer season, or it was my first chance to go. So I went out, wanted to do some still hunting because the season comes in Georgia before Bama. And I hunted both because I live on the border. So I got up my technique was I'd get as high in a pine tree as you could. I got up there and I fell asleep. And I woke up and I mean, it was jet black. It was dark. And I was like, I actually contemplated sitting there till the sun came up and hunting the next morning. But I was sitting there and it was dark. I was kind of just listening, and way off in the distance, I heard oh, and I thought, "Dadgum, what a coyote!" And which I knew hound dogs. I don't know, wasn't expecting a hound that time of night. And I heard it again. I was like, "That's not a coyote. That's a hound dog." And I was like, "Who in the world would have hounds out here?" And I was like, "It's got to be a coon hunter." And I heard a squealier mouth female dog open up behind it, and I started hearing them work track. And I was like, I got to find out who this is. So I shimmied down that tree, ran to my truck, and got up on Blue Ridge Road, dirt road, and I'd drive a couple 100 yards and stop and listen out the window. And I could hear them still working. I did that for about a mile, and them two jokers locked it down. And I mean, they went to hammering him. The blue dog that he was hunting, I mean, he had a big old powerful mouth, and he treed with kind of a ball and chop on the tree, and he was just hammering. So I found a little tank trail kind of going down towards them, and followed it down, and there sat a little Chevy S10, little white truck with a dog box, tailgate down. I was like, oh, there's my coon hunter. So I got out. They had already taken off through the woods. I could see their lights out of ways. And I heard them shoot the coon out, and they were coming back towards me, but they were kind of going off kilter. They weren't coming really towards their truck. So I jumped up on the tailgate and I yelled, "Hey, your truck's over here." And the light shut out and it went quiet. And I sat there for a while and didn't hear nothing. And then directly I could hear something rustling through the woods, and it was kind of a distance where the woods started. I see a face pop out from the trees, and he said, "Who the hell are you?" And I said, "Well, my name's Chuck Pudil. I heard your hound dogs and your coon dogs. I wanted to see them." And this is like this was before Bobby's church going days, and he kind of did a little cuss, and he's like, "Daggum, I threw down my rifle. I threw down my raccoon." He said, "I thought you was the MPs and the military police," which he was legally hunting. I guess it just startled them that they didn't expect somebody to be at their truck when they're coming back. And so I said, "Well, I'll go help you find them." So I grabbed a handheld flashlight out of my truck, and off through the woods we went, and we found his rifle and his coon. He had his son, Brad, who's like a brother to me. And then another fellow wasn't too crazy about. We didn't hunt with him much anymore. But we came back out, and I don't know, Bobby's kind of looking at me strange, like, who the heck is this guy out in the middle of the woods at night chasing me down? And he asked me, he said, "Are you a coon hunter?" I said, "Well, kind of." And he's like, "Well, me kind of." He said, "You have dogs?" I said, "I got a few." And he said, "Well, where'd you get them from?" I said, "Joe Bellflower." He laughed. He said, "You ain't got dogs, you got crap eaters." He worded it a little different, but and I said, "Yeah, it's about the size of it." And he said, "Do you want to go coon hunting?" I said, "Yeah, I'd like to go coon hunting." So he pulled a little notepad out of his truck and wrote my name down. And I never forget, I went home. I said, "I met a real coon hunter. He's going to take me coon hunting." My wife said, "Ain't nobody going to take you coon hunting. He probably thought you're crazy out there in the middle of the woods chasing him down." But it was a couple nights later, he called me up and I said, "You still want to coon hunt?" I said, "I do." So we met up on Victor Drive right outside of Fort Benning, and I jumped in his truck with him. I knew of a pretty good little creek where it runs between two railroad tracks. And we went there, turned them loose, and I took off to go with the dogs like I was mine. He said, "What the heck are you doing?" I said, "Going with the dogs." He said, "Son, you don't go with them dogs." He said, "You'll kill yourself trying to keep up with them." He said, "They're going to get a mile through them woods before you know it." He said, "You stand up here," and he said, "We're going to listen to them. We're going to listen to work a track. When they get treed," he said, "we may have to drive, around just to be able to hear them." He said, "When we get treed, we'll walk on into them." They went 400 or 500 yards down the creek, and they'd struck, and they treed. And I said, "The quickest way right here is to walk these railroad tracks and cut in." So we got to going down the railroad tracks, and all of a sudden Bobby went to cussing a blue streak again. I said, "What's the matter?" And he said, "Well, I keep my 22 shells in a medicine bottle." And he said, "I filled it up and I left it on the counter." He said, "I won't be able to shoot the coon out." I said, "Well, that's no problem. I'll just climb the tree and knock him out." And he laughed. He said, "Son, you ain't seen the size of trees coons go up." I said, "Yeah, and you ain't seen me climb." And I could tell he thought I was a little bit cocky, which I was. And so we got in there, and doggone if they didn't tree in a tree the size of a Volkswagen. And he found a coon, which Bobby's ability to find coons was always amazing to me. But he found the coon. I was pretty impressed just watching these dogs work, because I'd never seen nothing like that before. And I looked at the tree. I was like, "Man, there ain't a limb for 20 feet up." But there was an adjacent tree that went up in there, and there was some limbs hanging down. It wasn't big around as your fingers. And I said, "Shine up in those limbs." And I jumped up and grabbed 2 handfuls, and like a monkey, hand over hand, like climbing a rope, went straight up in that tree. Got over in the other tree and chased the coon up and knocked it out. I got down. He said, "I've seen men climb trees and knock a coon out." He said, "I ain't never seen anybody do that." And he kind of laughed. And I don't know, probably next 2-3 months, we were hunting just about every night. I'll never forget, we had hunted a couple months, and Bobby said, "Chuck," he said, "I'm going to be honest with you." He said, "When I first met you," he said, "most people that grow up around here," he said, "2 things they generally don't care for: soldiers from Fort Benning and Yankees." He said, "Doggone if you ain't both." And he said, "And I still like you."
Are you tired of whipping, scolding, and shocking to make them get alone? Is your buddy tired of helping you set your dog up for correction night after night? Do you really want your dog to be alone because you forced him to be? Or would you rather him be alone because he wants to be? Grand Night Champion Small Town Lone Survivor is the product of over 25 years of strong natural-born independent traits. This bold trait has been passed down from generation to generation and is showing up in loner offspring today. Loner is a direct son of Hall of Fame Grand Night Champion Cabin Creek Rowdy and Grand Night Champion Lonesome Dove Lori. Loner has a booming mouth that is talked about in every cast he has been in, including the 2021 World Hunt Finals. Loner is a no-reverse, ball-mouth open trailer who ends it plussed up with a huge dying locate and steady chop. Loner loves getting split and is a stay-put gun-pressure tree dog. Loner's intelligence is also impressive. He knows over 12 voice and hand signal commands. Loner has a character that loves like Jesus, but he doesn't walk on water. If you're interested in breeding to Loner, contact Brett Stevens at Small Town English Kennels at 417-300-3777 or find him on Facebook.
If you're interested in running a stud ad for your dog here on the Coonhound Collective podcast, reach out to us at thecoonhoundcollective@gmail.com. Send us a message through Facebook or Instagram, and we'll be glad to get with you to get you an ad built and get you pricing on all of our ads.
But he's Bobby's best friend I've ever had in my life. I'll say he's not only is he just an absolute phenomenal human being, just a wellspring of knowledge. He's forgotten more about coon hunting than I'll probably ever know on breeding, training, just hunting in general. And he's also, I don't think I've ever met anybody more honest than Bobby. Bobby tells you something, you can take it to the bank. And he's like family to me. His boys are like family to me. And but yep, that night was my first night really coon hunting, and little did I know that it was going to be a big part of my life later on.
Yeah, so that kind of got you hooked there. So from that relationship being built there with Bobby, did that put you on the path? Or are you hunting blue dogs, or did you start off hunting some blue dogs? And did you always just pleasure hunt, or are you doing some competition hunting too?
I've done a little. So to answer, so Bobby, here's Bobby's weakness, and he'll tell you this. Bobby's colorblind. If Bobby would have picked a breed, and I believe this, if Bobby would have picked a breed and only bred, trained, and handled that breed, I believe he'd be as famous of a breeder as Dave Dean was with blue dogs, or Fred Moran was with red dogs, or whoever out there. You pick them, and I think Bobby is colorblind. He'll hunt anything. He's bred and raised some of the best black dogs I've seen, blue dogs, walkers, red bones, English. I think he's raised about everything but plots, and he's had some plots. But Bobby would tell stories about a dog named Bullet, a red bone he had that was out of Fred Moran's Midnight Hickory back in the, I think, 70s, 80s. And to this day still says it's the best dog he's ever hunted. People around here still talk about that dog when you talk to old coon hunters. So I don't know, for some reason, I took a liking to red dogs. I met a fella named Russell Lee over in Waycross, Georgia. Me and Irvin drove over and hunted with him. And he had a young dog named Dusty that was lightly started. And I convinced him to let me take him and start hunting him. So for a while, I hunted the hair off that Dusty dog. I planned on buying him, or trying to buy him, and I bought a red bone puppy from Russell. Russell was a pretty well-known red bone man out of Waycross at that time. Well, I got left here and got stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. No sooner did I get there, I found out I was going to get sent to Haiti for that peacekeeping stuff for 6 months. So I called Russell up and said, I'm going to have to send your red dog back to you. And I wasn't able to buy him. I said, he's ready to competition hunt now. I don't know if you're familiar with the Copeland, Copeland's Red Hot Dusty won the Purina Points back in the early 90s. That's him. That's the first dog I ever trained on my own. But Russell finished him out to Grand Night and then sold him to Copeland there. But once I got back from Haiti, Russell owed me a puppy, because I gave him my puppy back. So I went and picked up a red puppy from him out of a dog he had named Plunger, and a little walker dog, tough little walker dog to train him with. What I did, I just started training dogs for other people. My red male didn't turn out. I didn't really have the money then for a trained dog. And I guess I wasn't smart enough to train my own puppy. I just started training other dogs that were lightly started, and I would get them ready to compete. And then Glenn Rogers, Russell Lee, a couple of men, just had me training dogs for them. And I was hunting 10, 20 nights in a row back then when I was at Fort Bragg. But I stayed there for 3 years and then came back to Fort Benning and had 2 kids within a year and a half. I was still hunting with Bobby then. I didn't have any dogs of my own. I was just helping him out. And then when 9/11 happened, after that, the deployments started stacking up, going back and forth to Iraq and Afghanistan. So I completely got out of it. Just quit coon hunting. When I would come back to the Fort Benning area, I would leave, go somewhere, come back, leave, go somewhere, because my wife's from here. I would hunt with Bobby, but I wasn't a coon hunter per se. But I retired as a lieutenant colonel. I was a professor of military science out at University of Arkansas, and stayed out there for a few years and started dabbling in squirrel dogs, the little feists. Excuse me. I liked that, but it wasn't the same as hounds. So me and my wife talked about it and said, let's move back to Fort Benning area and do our permanent retire here. So I got a job teaching school, came back here 3 years ago, 2019, and just started hunting a little bit with Bobby. That lasted about 3 weeks, and next thing you know, I had a red bone here. He didn't suit me. Had a young male out of G-Man. And so I went on the search, and I found
Hey guys, Jason at the Coonhound Collective podcast. Today I'm here to talk to you about a benefit hunt that's coming up. The State of Missouri Coon Hunters Association is holding the annual Shriners Children's Hospital benefit hunt on September the 24th, 2022. This is a UKC sanctioned event. There will be a bench show and a night hunt. There will also be a auction on the grounds at 1 o'clock. For more information on that, you can go to the Shriners Children's Hospital Benefit Stud Dog Auction and more on Facebook and check it out. You can scroll down through there. The winner of the bench show is going to get a CZ custom dog box. The winner of the night hunt is going to get the same custom dog box. There's a dog box up for auction right now over there, and a ton of stud dogs. Really nice dogs. Be a good opportunity to reserve a breeding for one of these dogs. Get your name in there. Stay on top of it. Make sure you win it so you can get a good breeding for that good female that you got out there. And there's a ton more other prizes. There's puppies being given away, some young dogs that are being auctioned, a lot of good things. Coon hunters are coming together for a great cause here. Help us make this hunt a large hunt here in Missouri. Help us raise some money to give to the Shriners Hospital. These guys are excited. They're really on fire here to try to make this hunt big. They're making a push here to make it. So help these guys out to really make this hunt a big hunt. You can reach out to Larry Bourbon if you don't have Facebook. And his phone number is 636-388-5420. 636-388-5420, or you can also reach out to Colton Ingram and his phone number 636-249-3330. 636-249-3330. If you have something that you can auction off, get with these guys. They'll get it posted up on the page and get the auction running. Anything and everything. It doesn't have to be coon hunted related. Get it to them. Let's help these guys raise money for a great cause here. Coon hunters always come together to help other people. This is a great cause to help people. Let's help the State of Missouri Coon Hunter Association send a big check to the Shriners Hospital. Thanks.
Aftershock male down in the panhandle of Florida. Bobby bought him for me and started hunting him. He's exactly what I was looking for, and brought him to a nice female, raised a litter of puppies. So I've got a 2-year-old female I call Dottie. She's ready to competition hunt now. I hunted the Winter Classic last year. That's about it, competition hunt. But this coming year, that is the plan. I've got a male out of Rocky, direct out of Rocky, that I'm going to title, and I'm going to title out my Dottie female. I'm going to try to get at least one of them in the Tournament of Champions hunt this year.
Yeah, well, there are definitely some good goals to set. I have some of those myself, and I've been guilty of working with young dogs and sometimes getting frustrated with them and sending them on before I really see their potential, and and used to I used to enjoy messing with puppies, from the time they were young and to the time you got them really going. I used to enjoy it, but it's kind of weird. The older I've gotten, the less I really like doing that. So I try to get something that's a little older that don't have to quite the frustration to deal with.
I think it is smarter to get a young started dog, but there is something about breeding, raising, training. I'll never forget last year, Bobby's got a little blue female named Harper. Bobby used to competition hunt years ago. He's 72 now. Bobby just pleasure hunts. He's got nothing against competition hunting, but he's a pleasure hunter. And he's got a nice little blue female that would win hunts. And I was hunting my little Dottie female with her. Dottie had started running and treeing well. The blue female locked up, treed, massive oak tree. We shined it. My Dottie female wouldn't tree on it. She kind of meandered around, and we couldn't find the coon. Ended up going back to the truck, and I wasn't even leashing Dottie then. She just followed me back. Went to load her, and she wasn't there. I said, Bobby, where's Dottie? He said, I don't know. She was here a second ago. And I pulled out my Garmin, and she back to the tree. And I started hollering for her. I about bumped her with a shot collar, and then looked at the Garmin. She was 100 yards behind a tree. She was 200, and she was 300. Next thing you know, she's 600. Bobby's like, "What's she doing?" I was like, "I don't know. I ain't heard her open." We drove around, and she was just silent cold tracking. Then all of a sudden, I heard her open up. She drove a track about 300 yards and locked it down, and I mean locked it. I went in, and it was her by herself with a coon in a tree, and I shot it out, and I think after that, I shot 14 out to her, hunting her all by herself. There's just something about when you've bred it, raised it, trained it, and they start doing like they're supposed to. That, I don't know, probably to me the epitome of coon hunting right there.
Yeah, I will agree with you there. I've got, I have done that some, really when I was younger, I've done that quite a bit and did enjoy it. But I do have a litter of puppies here on the ground now out of my English female, and she only had three, and I've kept all three. I'm keeping all three, and they're 5 weeks old this week, and that's the plan with those is to keep them until they're up and going and started and see which ones that I like the best. But they're from this point to the to the time that they're doing like your dotty female running and treeing their own coon, there's some frustrating moments in there for sure.
Yeah, and I think probably it's funny, one of the, I'd say them friends that you haven't actually met in person. One of the guys I've gained a lot of information on just strictly red bones is Wade Coons up in Pennsylvania. And he said one of the keys is knowing when to cut one loose. Because you raised it, trained it, and got it, you got to know when to say, yep, this one's going to make it. Nope, this one's got to go. And whether it's, send it on to the deer hunters or shred the papers and let somebody have as a pet or however you cull one. But that's that knowing what to keep and what to get rid of. And like you said, there's the other side of the coin of those people that get rid of one too quick. I did that with a blue male years ago in North Carolina. That joker straight out of Bobby's Big Blue Jason dog. Ended up with Wayne and Francis Wilmoth, went to Grand Night Champion. That dog's still showing up in pedigrees. Cold Blue Steel.
Yeah, yeah. I used to be real bad to give up on one too quick, and I had a little black and tan here I got as a 8-week old puppy from Michael Barnes in Arkansas, and I hauled him around everywhere. He was obedient trained, and he started running and treeing coons with another dog at around 5.5 months old. He was split treeing at 6.5 months old, and I mean he was really coming on good. And this year, at the beginning of the year, he just all of a sudden turned up sick, ended up having cancer, and passed away. And when I got him, I committed that he was going to stay here at my house, win, lose, or draw, until he was at least 2 years old. And
Yep.
that, to me, that's just I don't get too caught up on it. If they're not running and treeing as young as he is, I don't, or was, I don't get too caught up in that. I don't get too worried about it. There's other things that I'm working on, and in that time frame, and really I don't want to push one too hard, too quick, too young, and burn them out so I can't enjoy them. I've got a young black and tan female that I've been hunting, and she just turned a year old, and she'll run track good. Boy, she can drive a track, and when she comes on the tree, it's just like she's driving nails. But she'll just quit treeing, and then she's mulberries are on up here, and she'll start circling the trees and walking on her hind legs, winning coons in the mulberry trees. And you could just we don't have our kill season's not in yet. It don't start till August 1st, and you could just tell the frustration in her. And so I usually will not let other people hunt my dogs, but because of the frustration in her, the frustration that I could feel in me, I found a guy in Arkansas that they do have a kill season, and I've sent her down there for 30 days and see if he can put some coons on her. And by the time I get her back, our kill season will be about ready to come in. And, sometimes you got to make those hard decisions of either this dog's not for me, it needs a new address, or maybe it just needs another hand on it for a little while.
That makes a lot of sense.
Okay. So, the red dogs there, and you're gonna start competition hunting this year. Have you? Was there any other dogs in there? I know you mentioned the one blue dog, but was there any other breeds that you've had through the years?
Oh yeah, well, like in my younger day, especially when I was at Fort Bragg and I was hunting other people's dogs, I'd hunt anything. But Glenn Rogers was a big competition hunter up in North Carolina, and we met. I started hunting with him, and he asked, the other people that I was handling dogs for. He said, "How much are they paying you?" I said, "Paying me?" And he's like, "Yeah." I said, "Ain't nobody ever paid me a nickel to handle a dog." And he said, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah." He said, "How much equipment they buying?" I said, "Nobody bought equipment." He said, "What about dog feed?" I said, "I buy my own dog feed." He said, "Dude, you hunt way too hard and way too good to be doing this all for free." And he pulled three $100 bills out and said, "Go buy you a Cajun Stinger." That was kind of the top of the line belt light back then over at Godwin's. He pulled a PKC Super Steak female out of the box and he said, "She's half yours." And then he had a silver champion male named Buddy. He said, "Buddy's half yours." He said, "Start training my dogs." And so I got her ready to competition hunt. Ended up, once I got out of it, we sold her to Russell Lee. And I think he finished her out. She's a tough little female. But I hunted probably walker dogs as much as anything back in the late 90s before I got out of it. Matter of fact, that was mostly what I was hunting. It was just hard to find good red dogs, and I kind of gave up on it for a while and hunted mostly walkers and English.
Yeah. So, before we move on from here, we talk about a little bit about handling dogs for other people, and um, kind of the trials of that. Because obviously, there you said that you were handling some dogs for some people, and you wasn't getting paid, and then sounds like you got opened up to a new opportunity there where you did get a little something from it at least, and owning half of the dog, and a little money to buy some equipment and stuff, and there's a lot of young people out there that they want to get in the sport, or they've gotten a sport and maybe they don't have the dog that can really go out there and compete and win, and they'd like to get into handling some dogs for some people. What kind of set you on that path to be able to do that?
I think one, I was probably jaded a little bit in that I learned, I was tutored under Bobby Phillips. And here's the downside of that. You're going to be hard pressed to find a coon hunter straight up when they tell you something, you can take it to the bank like Bobby. My kind of saying is be like Bobby. When you tell somebody something, they got to be able to take it to the bank. And if you build a reputation of just pure honesty, you got no problem getting dogs, moving dogs. And I think that's what hurts a lot of young guys. We have some very good people in our sport, but we got some straight up crooks. We got some dog jockey and skin you, sell you something that supposedly will do whatever, and you get it and it ain't even close. If you want a young guy in the sport, we got to give a little to get a little. Help a brother out and put a good dog in a person's hand. I got a young kid I'm working on right now. He's a big time ranked in the top of Alabama high school bass fisherman. He's about burned out from bass fishing. I'm going to see if I can get him into handling hounds, teach him how to do it. He's got a real competitive nature. I'd rather train him and have him hunt them than me put him in the hunts. I'll do some of the hunts, but I'd rather somebody else handle them in the hunts. I'd rather just train. But I think, that's the goal is you gotta be honest. I'll tell a quick story. I'd been hunting dogs with Glenn Rogers, and he said, "Dude, you got to start competition hunting." So he told me, he said, to kind of cut your teeth, let's put you in a PKC hunt down around Elizabethtown, North Carolina. So there was a club down there, and went down. He paid the fees, and I had that Buddy dog, which was a PKC silver champion, outstanding, kind of tall, lanky walker, had a screaming mouth, screaming dying ball locate, 120 bark a minute tree dog, medium hot nose. He wouldn't run a cold track. Dog didn't have but one bad thing I could say about him. occasionally, a couple times a year, he'd tree a possum on a bad night. Not often, but what he would do. So I was hunting him. Glenn stayed in the truck. He was the only dog that struck. I struck him in, and he treed, and I knew as soon as he treed, something wasn't right, because I knew how he treed, 120 bark a minute, slobber mouth tree dog. So he was halfway treeing, and I was like, doggone, he treed a possum. Well, the calves got in there to the tree, and 99 times out of 100, a possum goes up a tree not big around as your leg. Well, this tree was massive, and it had vines all over it. So I was shining the tree. I told them shine the tree. We shined all over, couldn't find nothing. As I ran my head light down that tree, about 10 feet off the ground, tucked up in them vines was a possum. And I said, doggone, there it is. I didn't say nothing. And we were walking back to the truck. Time had run out, and the judge said, well, you'll win that one. And I said, scratch my dog. And he said, what? I said, scratch my dog. He said, what do you mean? I said, Buddy treed a possum. He goes, well, I've hunted with Buddy. He said, I knew something wasn't right. He goes, where was the possum? I said, he wasn't 10 feet off the ground, up in them vines. And he said, well, why'd you tell me that? I said, if I beat you, I'm going to beat you for real. I ain't beating you with a possum. And he laughed. He goes, well, I appreciate that. So, they kind of talked about that. Well, I got back to the truck, and Glenn was about half asleep. And he said, Buddy didn't sound quite right. I said, no, I had a possum in the tree. And he said, them fellas see it? I said, no. He said, well, you won the cast then. I said, no, I told him scratch my dog. He's like, you did what? And he got mad. I mean, cussing mad. And he said, let me tell you something. He said, when you go to that tree, he said, you go to the tree ready to fist fight. He said, I don't care what you got to do. You hunt to win. And I said, not me. I said, my word's more important than $100 from a little PKC hunt. And he didn't talk to me. We went back, and I went my way. He went his way. It was about 2 weeks. And he'd call me on the phone and say, meet me at the car wash. We met up at the post car wash. And he said, I was a little pissed last time. He said, I'm going to tell you something. He said, that word has gotten out. He said, I got people calling me from all over the place wanting to know who the heck is handling these dogs for me. He said, because anybody that's honest enough to scratch his own dogs, he said, they want you to handle their dogs. He said, so ignore what I told you. He said, you keep doing what you're doing, and don't try to be like me. And that's, I always kind of kept that in the memory banks, is if you do the right thing, people take care of you.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I try to be that way. I've recently sold some dogs, and I get them to the people and wait a short period of time and call them and make sure they're satisfied with them. And especially in selling a dog, dogs do weird things. Especially if they've been around you for a while and you sell them, they do weird things, and maybe not hunt just right or whatever. And I always, when I get a dog, try to take some of that into consideration, while in the beginning stages of hunting one. But yeah, it's a dog. It's a dog deal. It's a hunt, and it's not worth ruining your reputation over. That's for sure.
That's true.
So, what other stories that you got that you could share with us this evening? We've been at it. My recorder says about 45 minutes, so we've probably been at it about 40 minutes or so. I don't want to keep you too long, and you don't have to share all your stories with us, but I mean the one with Irvin is, to me, just embodies coon hunting. Are you and him still hunting together? Y'all still talk regular?
Well, we still talk real regular. Matter of fact, this coming Friday, we're going catfishing together. We're going to go, I got a 18-foot mud boat from South Louisiana, hunt and fish off it. But we're going to go out on the river and run catfish noodles and see if we can't catch a cooler full.
Oh, that's awesome. I've definitely done that just several miles south of you there on the Chattahoochee River. That's where, I'm originally from, in southeast Alabama. Went to school right there on the Chattahoochee River, and that's a lot of fun for sure.
Well, I'll tell one more story. So I was running a helicopter landing zone at Fort Bragg. It was dark, and I ended up standing next to a fella, big dude. And I don't know, it was dark out running this. He was a captain from the brigade headquarters. I was a lieutenant down at battalion level, and I'm running this landing zone. We started talking, and as the helicopters flew, it got a little quieter. He was a South Carolina boy, had gone to West Point, played tight end at West Point, but he grew up running deer dogs. And it was something, next thing we're talking deer dogs and coon dogs. He found out I coon hunted. And I remember thinking, doggone, I've got to get a new company commander. Mine was leaving. I didn't like the one I had. I was like, I'd love to have that guy as a company commander. Well, lo and behold, he became my company commander. His name was Doug Baker. Just a good fella. But we were out in the field. It was me, him, and our company first sergeant. I was the company executive officer, so I'm second in command. You got company commanders first in command, and then the top enlisted. And they said, we ain't never coon hunted, and we want to go with you. And I said, okay, we get out of the field, we'll go. So we picked a night, and I was supposed to pick them up. And it was going to be a twofer. I was going to take them coon hunting, and I had linked up on some private land south of Post, about 45 minutes. Captain Baker was a big-time deer hunter, and I was trying to hook him up. The guy that owned the land was a retired merchant marine, that he could hunt this land. So we're going to coon hunt. I'm going to let him meet the guy, and he's going to get some hunting property out of it. So I go to Baker's house, and I'm a non-drinker. I don't like being around people that drink. I don't like this, not my thing. So I get there, and him and the first sergeant had been drinking liquor to enough where I could tell it. And I'm like, daggum, they're about half crocked. So now it's like the ethical decision making in my head. I was like, man, I work for this guy. I don't really want to tell him he can't go, but I really don't want to take them down there, especially with me trying to get him this hunting land. So I was like, I don't know what to do. So I said, well, I'm going to take him. So I took him down there. The old man, I had a Special Forces staff sergeant or sergeant first class that had hooked me up with that. He's down there. So we got 5 of us. And I had a young Walker dog I was trying out. Don't even remember the dog's name, but I turned mine out first, and it treated a possum. I got 2 possum stories. So we get in, and tall, thin tree, possum's in there. I'm like, daggum, we're going from bad to worse. So I said, I'm going to go up in the tree, knock the possum out. I busted off 2 clubs, 2 pieces of pine limb. I gave one to Baker, one to the first sergeant. I said, when that possum hits the ground, one of y'all club it upside the head, and I'm going to do a little training with this dog to get it to leave possums alone. So I shimmied up that tree, knocked the possum out. When it hit the ground, instead of swinging down and hitting the possum, Captain Baker swings that club like a ball bat and cracked the first sergeant right across the shins. He hit him in the shins. The first sergeant, they're both about half drunk anyways, he rears back and smacks the captain with his club. And next thing you know, I got a full-blown, no-holds-barred stick fight going on at the base of the tree, and the possum done run off. And I was like, well, so much for getting him to hunt land. They're definitely not going to kick us off this property. So I get down the tree, break them up, and end up going out. Well, the old man, I guess he didn't seem to mind. He ended up giving him rights to hunt the property and all. But I said, that's the last time I take them 2 knuckleheads anywhere. Kind of made me look bad.
Yeah, he probably didn't mind because he was probably just as entertained as I just was.
Yeah, he was. It didn't, like I said, Baker ended up getting to hunt on the property and all that. But it didn't turn out quite like I thought. I didn't expect them to be down there at the bottom of the tree beating each other with clubs while the possum ran off.
Yeah, well, that's a good story, and I look forward to following you on Facebook and reading many more stories. I know we talked on the phone earlier today, and you can go over to Charles's Facebook page and read it. There's one on there about a young kid in the fireworks stand, and that brings back some memories for sure. But we've been at it not quite an hour. If you have anything else to share, you can share it, or anybody you'd like to thank, you can do now, and we'll try to land this thing here in just a few minutes.
Hey, I appreciate you contacting me. And, it's one thing that's different. Well, there's a few things different now with the coon hunting is we got the electronics are quite a bit different. I used to use the old radio tracking collars. Now we got the Garmin's. Well, so, the lights are much more advanced. But the Facebook and the different groups allows you to communicate with coon hunters all over the country that you couldn't before. You read the Coonhound bloodlines, you called a number in the back, and that's how it was. So since getting back into this, I mean, there's been some guys, some of them I haven't even met, some I have. Kyle Borgstadt out in Missouri, Red Dog Man. He bred Iceman dog I've got real high hopes. He's a littermate brother to his Moon dog that he's been winning so many hunts with. But Kyle's been a big help to me. Ricky Vickers up in Kentucky. He's been a real big help. Wade Coons. There's a number of them that just, they've been a wealth of genetics information and helping out. But, a number of these folks, Steve that runs the coon hunting or the conversation where you read the story at, that's, there's a couple of these outstanding Facebook pages that just it really helps you stay in touch with folks across the country that are coon hunting. That's how I met you.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of good people out there, a lot of good people willing to help, and social media has definitely played a part in that. And we also use a social media app called Go Wild, and there is a houndsman section in there. They don't have the groups. It's not Facebook. They wasn't trying to recreate Facebook, but they have a houndsman group in there, and some of the content and pictures showed in there and videos and stuff are really 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 good. And then the groups in Facebook have, you can, if you want to know about English dogs or check out English dogs, there's a page on English dogs, black and tans, Walker dogs.
Yep.
I mean, you name it, it's there. If you want information, you can get it, and yeah, you'll have a few if you ask questions and you're trying to learn or whatever. You'll have a few people, pop off at the mouth, but for the most part, people are there to help, and those people you just gotta ignore and move on.
I think one of the challenges or one of the things that we need to do, those of us that have some experience, I can't speak for black and tans and English and all that because I hang out on the Redbone pages. I may be wrong, but I will bet you the black and tans are others. There's a significant population of these pet, show, rescue that have your breed of dog. And they want to be the dominant voice on some of those pages. You got to find a young coon hunter that gets on those pages and direct them to a page that's strictly hunting. Otherwise, they get led astray quick. So there's a few, I'm sure there are with the same with the black and tan. There's 2 or 3 of the Redbone pages where it's just straight up hunting dogs, hunting people, and good information. You get a smart aleck every now and then, but for the most part, they run them pretty good. But some of those other ones, if you see, 10,000 members, you gotta, you're more likely to have a pet page with rescue people, but they're going to be the self-declared experts, and gotta kind of help police those and round up your coon hunters and get them in the right pages.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and that's another reason I like to Go Wild out. They kind of monitor that stuff themselves and try to keep some of that stuff out of their social media. Kind of keep some of the antis out of it and
Yep.
and get people pointed in the right direction. And they don't allow that type of criticism and stuff like that to go on over there. And that's one thing I really like about them. And I've kind of started to try to post a lot of my hunting pictures and videos and stuff over there. I still do some on Facebook and Instagram and stuff just because my wife and kids are there, and I still do some stuff there. But I really, the more I've used this Go Wild app, the more I've liked it, and there's more like-minded people over there. It's people like me and you that we're interested in hunting. We're not interested in all that other stuff that's going on.
Yep, that's true.
Well, I don't think we even scratched the surface. And we've not talked that much, but I don't even think we've scratched the surface here on stories. And I'd love to have you back in the future, and we can sit and tell some more, and maybe you can give us an update on those red dogs that you've got, and maybe we get some good feedback there on what they're doing and what they're winning, and we can just catch back up at another time. We've been at it right at an hour now.
Well, how far are you from the Arkansas border?
I can be in Arkansas in about 25 minutes.
My kids live in Fayetteville area of Arkansas because that's where I was professor of military science. So I head up there pretty regular too.
Oh,
It wouldn't take much coaxing for me to take a dog up there and slip across the border and do a hunt either, around a Thanksgiving, Christmas, or one of these times I go up there.
well, you got my number. You give me a call. We're about 2 hours from Fayetteville.
Good
So
deal. That's
we
doable.
we can meet halfway at some government land or something, and we'll definitely take a hunt. I would enjoy that.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking your time to be on the Coonhound Collective podcast, and we will catch up with you at another time.
Huge thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, guys, for listening to the Coonhound Collective podcast today. We really appreciate you taking your time out of your day to listen to the podcast. If you don't mind, head over to Facebook and give us a like, and head over to Instagram and give us a follow. It's both at the Coonhound Collective. Also, if you would like to reach us here at the Coonhound Collective, you can reach us at thecoonhoundcollective@gmail.com. If there's someone that you would like to hear on the podcast or a product that you would like to hear talked about, please send it to thecoonhoundcollective@gmail.com. Thanks again. Have a great day.